this thing with coffee, right? Even this pour over thing, you can get scales. I've got scales where you can measure exactly how many beans to put in, the grams, the timing, everything. But I find that the world is far too overly optimized. So I always catch myself, sometimes you sound something and it's like, oh shit, am I doing some sort of pithy to camera piece, That seemed a little bit too neat and polished because it's rarely ever as beautiful as it seems, and the inverse is also true. There's contexts that we can step into where we're more likely to manifest parts of ourselves that could be considered more authentic. I don't think we're ever not authentic. I just feel that sometimes in some contexts we maybe feel psychologically less safe. We don a particular mask or a particular armor or only show a particular aspect that we think will help us to survive in that particular world. Whereas more authenticity comes with comfort, psychological safety, and a willingness to reveal more of the parts of ourselves, even the parts that are in conflict with each other. I have a speaking engagement coming up wherein I'm donating my time to this event, and they're being quite generous and allowing it to be filmed. And they've also given me a blank slate as to what to speak on. It's going to be a presentation for about 20 to 30 minutes in the IMAX right next door to the Melbourne Museum. And the theme of the overall event is creativity in a post-truth world. A large part of me is incredibly excited about this because for some time I've been relying on stuff that has been tempered and honed that I know just works. As a keynote speaker, got Keynote Speaker of the Year in Australia in 2016. I have an ease of going in and sharing stuff that's relevant to corporate audiences. This isn't a corporate audience, and this is also an opportunity for me to set the torch to stuff that works incredibly well. This is me taking a bit of my own medicine, venturing beyond the default, actually doing things outside of my comfort zone, and it is freaking scary. It's been a while since I've done this. Most of my keynotes have been iterative to this point, like always contextualized to the client, always relevant, but bringing the best of my worlds and strengths and so forth. It's going to be interesting to see how we can pull this together. This is exciting. I'm about to introduce you to Dr. Kim Lam, my partner, my wife, the person that is my creative inspiration, the person who does most of the heavy lifting in the business and who keeps me sane and real. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Kim Lam. Kim helps me to stay both creative and high-level thinking and quite grounded and real for what the client actually needs.
It's often just a conversation between us where he might plant some seeds and discuss some ideas, and I'm really good at being critical. And I really like being in the position where he gets to pitch to me as well. Be like, okay, what are you going to impress me with today? And then jump out of that space as well and actually be helpful and kind.
This is pre-keynote, and this is the overarching process that I try to apply to most anything. I try to empathize with the audience. So there are at least two audiences here. There's the client, so what angst they have, the reason they've booked me, to provide some provocations, to contribute to an event. And then there's the audience itself in the room, and sometimes those needs aren't completely overlapping. Then I kind of shift to, all right, well, what are the predictable usual suspects? What's the stuff that if you Google, you're gonna find that here's the usual standard advice that's utterly bland and boring and most people have already thought about. I then go into this phase of what I call anti-fragile brooding. This is where I court doubt. I relish in doubt, all sorts of doubt. I doubt my own doubts. I ask questions. Is this really the case? Is there another way? Is there another angle to look at? What happens if we look at the nexus of intersecting trends? What are some angles here that other people haven't necessarily considered? What it distills is some sort of thesis, some provocation to put forward that's not all bland and predictable, that's interesting. That's the precursor to my keynote. This angst phase is where I spend a lot of my time. Just looking back on old notes, stuff that This is what an old keynote looked like with me visually anchoring different parts. It's kind of like what the map of the keynote looks like. I don't even understand what it means at the moment. think it's like this keynote, I can just feel it coming together. The risk at the moment is the amount of thinking I've done with this, because it's new and like it's untested, is that I'm like kind of try to cram too much into the short amount of time that I've got, and it's so counterintuitive, but the key to this good thing is about the stuff that I cut away. It's this process of what are the bits and how can I create those bits with a bit of breathing room, a bit of room for jazz and stuff. And at the moment I feel like I've got a three-day course worth of material that I need to condense into 30 minutes. So see how that goes. I think the thing to remember is that all of us are in photosynthesis. All of us are doing the best that we can with the resources and the understanding that we got in that particular moment. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming.
No worries. There's this wonderful quote by Alan Weiss. I'm constantly surprised by how stupid I was 2 weeks ago. And I'm pretty sure that there are things that I said 2 minutes ago that I'm surprised by how stupid I was.
So our next speaker is Dr. Jason Fox.
All right, so we're here. This is the conference, the one that I've supposedly developed a new keynote for, which is actually 50% familiar default material and 50% new stuff. This is like where the dance really begins, because I had a different image in my mind about what this would be. And so when I was yesterday here, I saw this space, I was like, this is going to be a novel challenge. A theatre style is interesting. There's this Pavlovian conditioning that happens where people walk into a room, into beautifully comfy chairs, big screen, and can naturally feel like they can just sit back, eat their popcorn, and let the entertainment and information wash over them. And so partly my challenge today will be spiking some energy into the mix to actually get people more engaged, more connected with each other and with the ideas that I'm sharing.
Lovely. Hello. Oh, this is wonderful. Okay, good. I'm going to share a little bit about how you can move beyond pessimism, which is something I've been spending a lot of time in at some point, and how you can possibly use motivation design in your world to arrive or create more in this post-truth world. If you think about the default arc of any enterprise, all organizations, initiatives, whatever it is, start at this kind of nascent startup phase. At this phase, new thinking is the most valuable commodity. If this new thinking meets a need in the world, one can expect things will grow. An interesting thing happens between growth and maturity. This is where curiosity begins to die. Because at this point of time, you have a raft of evidence that suggests that what you're currently doing is working, so why would you do anything differently? At this point of time, in this default arc, it becomes inefficient for you to do anything but the default. If we actually think about what curiosity looks like, it looks like people reading books and magazines that they don't normally read, going for long walks, thinking, mulling things over. And if you look at it through this capitalist productivity lens, none of that actually looks productive. None of it actually looks efficient. It looks like you're squandering time. And if we're not careful, this can lead us deeper into maturity, where we can start to experience the atrophy of empathy. People stop relating to each other as people. They're just cogs in the machine, and we relate to each other as our role descriptions. And ultimately, we start empathizing with the current and emerging needs in the market. We become embroiled in insular, and that ultimately sends us into the decline, into the inevitable kraken of doom, which feeds upon the sweet nectar of your impending irrelevance. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you clear your desk, it will fill with new things. Clear your calendar, it will fill with new things. One of the reasons many organizations struggle with transformation is because they simply add more things to do. Creativity and destruction are two sides of the same coin. And so part of this is, where is it in your life or in the work that you do that the activities you do could be considered a rich delusion of progress? And what does meaningful progress look like? What would it look like if you were to move closer to future relevance? What does that look like?
I think that personally, there's a thing where I kind of went at super high stakes with this, and there's a risk always that when you're trying new things, you get caught up in your own stuff instead of serving what's there or working with reality. There's something beautiful about creating space for things to emerge when you kind of create the right conditions and the context for brilliant, unexpected things to emerge. Which is kind of partly how you're approaching this documentary, which I love. This had not gone out as I first imagined. I thought it was going to be oh, look at that Jason, he's such a deep thinker, he's so thoughtful and, you know, he knows what's going on, and oh, look how beautifully he served the client in that big room, it's so polished, and my gosh, is this guy enchanted? Is this guy an avatar? Is this the avatar of Hermes? Who knows? I thought that it would be like that, but instead I think what people are seeing is just maybe, I don't know, I could be hallucinating this, but an earnest, thoughtful person trying to do some good work and be of service in a very odd game that is professional speaking, facilitating, and so on. Wow. Sorry, this is what's going to make it go viral, yeah? Cat video.